I speak 9 languages. The room went silent for a moment, just a heartbeat, before laughter erupted. Expensive suits shook with mocking chuckles, polished shoes tapped impatiently against the marble floor, and the CEO himself leaned back in his leather chair, his smirk cutting through the tension. 9 languages, he repeated slowly, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Son, you mop floors for a living. Maybe focus on English first before you start bragging about fairy tales. At the back of the room, near the door where he had been waiting for his father to finish cleaning, stood Ion, the janitor's son. His dark hair hung slightly over his eyes, and his hands clutched the strap of his worn-out backpack. He wasn't supposed to be here in the middle of this corporate meeting, but his father had no choice but to bring him along that day. Rent was late, food was running out, and leaving his teenage son alone at home again didn't feel right. Ion's father, Imran, lowered his eyes, his hand tightening around the mop handle. He had worked in this building for nearly 20 years, always quiet, always respectful. But the shame of hearing his son mocked in front of the most powerful man in the company was unbearable. He whispered, "Beta, let's go." But Ion didn't move. The CEO, a man named Richard Vaughn, turned his attention back to his board of directors, waving dismissively. "This is exactly why some people stay where they are," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "They live in fantasies. Imagine, speaking 9 languages and still mopping floors. Nonsense." But then Ion did something no one expected. He stepped forward, his voice steady though his heart pounded. "I can prove it." His words hung in the air, filled with a quiet conviction that silenced even the laughter. The executives exchanged amused glances. This was entertainment for them, nothing more. Richard chuckled. "All right then, kid. Impress us. Say something in French." Without hesitation, Ion began speaking in perfect, flowing French. His accent was flawless, his grammar crisp. One of the executives, a woman from Paris, straightened in her chair, her eyes widening. That's native-level French," she whispered. "Spanish," Richard barked. Ion switched smoothly into Spanish, his tone rhythmic and confident. Another man nodded slowly, recognizing the fluency. "Mandarin," Richard demanded. Without breaking a sweat, Ion recited a proverb in Mandarin, his pronunciation startlingly precise. By now, the mocking smirks were fading. He continued, moving through Russian, Arabic, German, Japanese, Italian, Portuguese, and finally Urdu, the language of his late mother. His voice softened on the last one, carrying emotion so deep that for the first time that morning, the polished executives didn't just see a janitor's son. They saw a young man with fire, discipline, and brilliance far beyond what they had expected. The room was silent when he finished. Silent in a way that no one could ignore. But Richard wasn't ready to be humbled. He leaned forward, folding his hands on the table. "Impressive parlor tricks. But languages won't pay your bills, boy." He smirked again. "Unless you've got something else up your sleeve." Ion looked at his father, then back at the CEO. He swallowed, then said, "Yes. I play something." He walked to the corner of the room where a grand piano stood untouched, a decoration more than anything else. The executives chuckled again. What could a janitor's son possibly do with such an instrument? Then Ion sat down, his fingers trembling just for a second before they touched the keys. And then, music. It wasn't just playing. It was storytelling, emotion carved into notes, a symphony that rose and fell like a storm. He blended melodies from the very languages he had spoken. A French waltz, a Spanish flamenco rhythm, the disciplined structure of German composers, the soulful depth of Arabic scales, the delicacy of Japanese harmonies. Every key carried not just sound but meaning. It was as if he had translated 9 languages into music. Executives leaned forward, their jaws slack. A few even had tears in their eyes, transported to different corners of the world in minutes. Imran, the janitor, stood frozen, tears welling up as he watched his son do what he had always believed he could, shine. When the final note lingered in the air, fading into silence, no one moved for several seconds. And then, applause. Genuine, thunderous applause that filled the entire boardroom. The Parisian executive stood first, clapping with tears in her eyes. One by one, the others followed. Richard Vaughan didn't clap. His face was red, his arrogance crumbling under the weight of what had just unfolded. Finally, he muttered, Where did you learn all this? Ayan stood, his hands resting on the piano. In the library. Online. From people I met. My father couldn't afford teachers, so I taught myself. While he cleaned this building at night, I sat in the lobby with books and headphones, teaching myself languages, music, everything I could. Because I refused to stay where people expect me to stay.